Welcome to Season 2 of the Shop Still Podcast, a podcast for woodworkers and the maker community in general. With Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks, Jordan Crawford from Periodic Furniture Studio, and Robin Lewis from Robin Lewis Makes. Hello everyone, I hope you're all very well. Welcome back to Episode 4, Season 2 of the Shop Still Podcast. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. We've got Joey Chalk. Joey, how are you today?
Very good, how you going?
Good. And Jordan Crawford. Jordan, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you for asking. And my name is Robin Lewis. It's great to have your company today. So we're also joined today by a very special guest, and one that you're most likely familiar with if you've spent any time on YouTube recently. He's a maker specializing in wood and metal, and he's amassed almost 110,000 subscribers on YouTube at the time of this recording. He's met Jimmy DiResta and Tim Sway, and probably the best point of all is that he happens to live in the same city as me, here in Townsville. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Scott Turner from For Me Industrious. Scott, how are you today?
I'm very well, Robin. And guys, how you doing? Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show, Scott. I really do appreciate it. As I said in the beginning, you've had some... I'm going to call it some wild success, probably in the last 12 to 18 months, and I'm really keen to get into some of that today and just have a chat about how all of that came to be. So I guess probably a good start for everyone out there who doesn't know you or who has never heard of you before. Give us a little bit of a background of what you do, where you've come from, and how you got to being what I would consider a YouTuber. Like what brought you to this point?
Well, when YouTube was, I guess it came out in 2008 or whatever, and using YouTube, my own experience was how to fix something. I didn't really watch it for much else. And probably around about 2010 or thereabouts, I was in my workshop here and I was looking at doing some metal work, and I saw a recommended page, Mitchell Dillman, come up. And he's an artist. He's in the United States, I think Colorado. And he was doing metal art and sculpting, and he also does woodwork. So he was one of the very first ones that I saw as what you'd probably call a maker. And he was talking to the audience and having weekly videos and that. And I just tuned in on Mitchell, and he was very down to earth. And I really enjoyed his work and appreciated what he was producing. And that sort of led me to other recommendations in the YouTube watch page, and little did I know that a guy by the name of Jimmy DiResta came up on my watch page, and I didn't know who this guy was. And this is going back in 2013, so it was a while ago. And around that time, my wife and I went to the United States. We went to New York City, and in that city, that's where Jimmy was. But I'd never have a clue who this guy was. I didn't know about the maker scene.
I'm trying to think back to then. Was the maker scene? I mean, obviously, it wasn't what it is today. But was it a thing back then?
There were some guys out there doing some routine videos and things like that, but it was nothing like what it is today. It was more low key, more backyard sort of stuff, and ordinary folk. Now it's getting pretty serious, pretty professional with the camera work and the sound recording, and also the output of the videos, all the editing. It's a very busy space now. But back in those days, I thought, well, maybe I could do a video, and some of my family were interested in some of the things I was up to, and I hacked together a video and put it up there, and forgot about it, and then you get a comment saying they like the video, or that's interesting.
Hopefully saying that they like the video.
Yeah, and then you get these views, and you don't even take any notice because you're not looking for that, and suddenly you click on your channel, and you've got all these views, and maybe I could make another video just for kicks. It was nothing serious, and it sort of went from there. And you get more comments and more people subscribe. And I think I had 2 or 3 subscribers, and the next week I might have been 5 or 10 or something like that. And I thought, well, maybe I could try a bit more serious project rather than just sort of just a fun project. And that's probably how I started. And then I learnt about monetizing and you can actually get an income from it. And my goal was to see if I can get a cup of coffee out of it. And so I scored.
Right.
I ended up scoring a cup of coffee out of YouTube. This is before you had to have 1,000 subscribers and all those other impediments that they have now. So that's how it started, and really it's just rolled on from there. So my first video was in about 2013, and my last video was about a week or so ago.
So you never had ambitions of being popular or being a full-time YouTuber. It was more just you just happened to end up in this scenario.
That's exactly right. When I first started it, there was absolutely no ambitions. It was more about sharing something worthwhile. If you know something that can help somebody along the way, it still has that thought for me. That's still part of it. Because I've looked up how to replace a wheel bearing on a car or whatever, and you go out and do that, and that's a very valuable sort of knowledge. So sharing was a big part of it, and that contribution. Just now that I've left my full-time career in aviation. Just a bit more of my background. I did basically 30 years either fixing aeroplanes or managing people fixing aeroplanes. So it got to a stage where I just wanted to have a break from that and explore more creative options. And there was a voice that just got louder, a noise that just got louder and louder within inside me. And YouTube was really the vehicle to allow me to do that without taking too much risk in terms of shop rent. I can just work from my own shop in here and just set up and produce a video and see where that takes me. I'm still learning. I'm still learning what it's all about and where I'm going. But
Scott, are you still? Well, are you selling any of the things you're making, or at this point are you still just kind of furnishing all the rooms in the house and coming up with kind of cool projects for just for entertainment value?
Mainly finishing all the rooms in the house, and I'm running out of room. So you guys are coming up. I'll just get a truck and drive around and deliver some furniture, I think. I have sold. I do get a commission every now and then. I get some CNC work as well, and the odd thing like a clock or a little side table or things like that. But really, I've probably said I would like to just steer away from commissions just for the next 12 months or so, if I can, and just concentrate on building the YouTube channel and setting up my workshop and just see where that takes me. And I'm like I said, 30 years in aviation. I just kind of want to catch my breath and enjoy life and hear the kookaburras and the birds chirping in the background and enjoy making in that creative spirit. And I just feel my batteries recharging every day because of that. And that's very important to me as a father and as a role model to finally give back some time to the family.
I guess because your channel is working so well at the moment, you can ride those coattails. You're not sort of using that as one of your revenue streams or one of your hobbies, in addition to something else. Your YouTube channel can really hold its own weight and you can put everything into that because of that success.
I'm very fortunate. I do count my blessings in so much that we can afford to do this because the YouTube revenue is okay. But it's not something to raise a family on. You have to have other things to working for you. But my wife and I, we work pretty hard to allow ourselves to have this opportunity to do this. We own the house. We don't have any mortgages. So now's the time. If not now, when? And so we're sort of jumping in and giving this thing a go. So like I said, 30 years of turning up to work every day and putting the yards in. It's not as if it's just sort of happened overnight. So
Jordan, I was going to ask, because I know, Joey, you've mentioned in the past you got into this YouTube side of things to show to your customers how your projects come together. But Jordan, what's your origin story?
I think I started the YouTube as a way of keeping track of what I was building and working on, because I was like working in the theatre industry at that stage where everything I built would be on stage for 6 weeks and then end up in a skip. So once it's gone, it's gone. So I started it with no ambition of being a YouTuber either. I just started it to have a record of what I was building and kind of keep track of the progress I was making. In that regard, I can definitely relate to Scott because, it wasn't anything expected from it other than to just do it. And when one person started watching and I got the first couple of comments and I thought, oh wow, this is kind of cool, and they're asking for feedback. I thought, well, that's the perfect thing for the next video, is to explain that a little bit further, and then, you know,
Yeah.
just kind of is it snowballed? I think that's the saying. It's just snowballed into one after another. So yeah, because like the one thing I notice about your videos, Scott, is like the sincerity of it. It doesn't come across as if you're trying to force anything or fake anything, but you're genuinely trying to share this, like, if it's a fact, you're just sharing this cool fact that you think is actually cool, or if it's just the build itself, it's very truthful, at least the way it's delivered. Whereas some people out there, you can tell I'm just doing a video for the sake of doing a video, but I never kind of get that feeling.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I guess I'm trying not to succumb to the pressure of having to make a video. My goal and some of the constraints I have is to produce something worthwhile that can inspire people, that's got enough creativity or artistic element that it's a worthwhile project to share. There's dozens of things that I do around the workshop that I don't film because it doesn't float my boat. It doesn't stimulate me, so I don't have the excitement to share that.
Something that really strikes me when I was watching your videos, Scott, is there's these glimpses of your personality that comes through really strongly, and it reminded me a lot of Colin Furze, where he does these crazy breakaways where he's dancing around or doing something crazy, and I can see some of that in some of your videos, and I thought, man, I don't know if there's more of in that for you, but if you've got it, you should just let more of that into your videos, because it really I found myself with grinning away watching your videos, and I thought that doesn't usually happen on a maker video for me.
I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that, because life's so damn serious, and you know what, even when you're making something in the shed and you're in front of the camera and you focus on that, something will happen. You either trip over or you you know, you'll sneeze or fart or whatever it is. There's just stuff that happens. When you're in the workshop by yourself, you know, most of us have got some sort of sense of humour, and if you can let that slide into your video somehow, because it's never a perfect, straightforward job. There's always stuff that you break, or it doesn't work, or you've done something really stupid. And I think that's worth sharing.
I would love to put more, like, if I could start my channel again, I would be 100%, I would do more of that kind of stuff. And I think it was a bit of a trap I fell into, where my first few videos, I didn't know what I was doing, and there was no reference point at that point for this kind of thing. So I thought all I had to do was make it like a straight instructional type video, and then when you start seeing these other guys putting their personalities in, I thought, oh man, it's a bit late for me to do that, because I've kind of got this style that people expect, I guess.
Yeah.
And if I start going crazy, it's going to look forced, you know? So just keep it as is.
But the flip side of that, of course, though, is that if you've got a personality, not necessarily that you're a bad person, but you've just got an abrasive personality, for lack of a better word, or you just don't click with people socially, then you run that risk of, you know, not being as welcomed as other channels. So I kind of like the way that you've done it from that perspective, Joey, because you can, and I'm thinking back to when I first started watching your videos, you could be whoever I wanted you to be on that day,
right?
Because there was no
emotion.
There wasn't anything there, so my imagination made you whoever I wanted to be, which was a lot of help.
That's interesting.
You know, these channels, they're a work in progress. They evolve as we evolve, because it's fairly sort of new to us. Although it's certainly new to me. I feel funny sitting in front of a camera talking to it. As one of the things that early on, I really didn't want to talk into the camera. I didn't want it to be a tutorial. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a welder. I'm probably more of a creator, or that's why they use this term maker. You're a bit of everything. And so I just wanted the work to show, just bring the result, really. And but as I evolve, I find myself saying something or explaining a little thing, because the pictures don't always show the whole story, or you do something silly and it's worthwhile putting in, and the channel has sort of evolved that way. But I'm always reluctant to talk in the videos. I've done that many attempts where I've spoken, and it just goes into not the B roll or the C roll, but the Z file, and underneath the house I've buried it, and it just it doesn't work. But I don't want to force it, so that's why if I do something and I don't publish it, it's because I feel like I don't want to force the issue.
Yeah, I often will just use my first take for everything. I might do 1, 2, or 3 takes at a piece to camera, but I almost always use my first because it's just more genuine, and I'll have mistakes in it, and I'll just leave them in because there's no point trying to be perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if I have something where I am trying to say and I am forcefully trying to say it, I fail every single time. But when I am just like off the cuff and doing it more that vlog style where I'm just talking and I let myself stuff up or I let myself stumble, I can cut around it. And in my opinion anyway, it feels like it's a natural delivery and it's not this computer thing. But when I have scripted something out, I'm guaranteed to fail.
It loses that genuineness that we were talking about earlier. It loses that relatableness. Yeah.
No, we're all sharing the same the same issues there. There's a number of issues, complexities in a workshop. The job's the foremost one. You've got to try and produce something that's worthwhile, and then whilst the camera's there, you're moving all the junk and bins and rags around behind the camera. And then get back in front of the camera and make sure everything's good to go.
Like for me, because I have a shop where customers can come visit and say g'day, people will see me on the videos where I'm mindful if I'm feeling crap on a certain day, I won't do a video because it will come across as me feeling like crap. But then people come in and I'm snowed under because I'm trying to catch up on 100 different things, and this guy will come in and then think, oh, that guy's a real grouch. He doesn't look like that on his computer. And it's like, well, yeah, but you've come in at 8 a.m. I've been open for 2 minutes, and you're here trying to ask me to explain what the difference between a square bit of wood is and a rectangular bit of wood is. It's
and
a shape.
They want Jordan Crawford on camera. Jordan Crawford, who's bouncing all over the place, and
So it's like, I don't want to force anything in the videos, but at the same time, I don't want to force anything in real life. So,
I guess welcome to showbiz. That when you are an entertainer, that's what you get. Yeah,
it's still funny that you say that. It's you've got to get your head around it, because here we are, we're all just sitting in our homes or workshops, and you're an entertainer. Okay. Yeah, it's a hard one to get the head around.
And Neil Pask from Pask Makes, I find, is in that sense is just the strangest scenario, because he's the most quiet, humble guy, and he's got however many hundreds of thousands of people demanding entertainment from him, and yet he's just such a subtle guy.
Yeah.
So Scott, looking down your thumbnails of your videos, there's very quickly there's an overall style, a kind of aesthetic maybe, of wood and steel. And do you have a name for that? Or I guess it's like a multi-part question. Like, do you know what style you're making? How did that evolve to be like that? And is it going to change?
I like doing the industrial style, wood and steel. I love the two materials. The rivets. When I walk down and see the old buildings with the ornate scroll work and things like that, I really fall in love with it. If you go into the old cities like New York or Sydney, even any of those sorts of places, the old bridges and things like that with the rivets and the artisans put these things together in those older days. I love that steel, and I love that that permanency of that type of workmanship. And so I guess that's worked its way into my craft and my creativity. So when I sketch something out, it's always got some steel and it's always got some wood in it. Probably early on, say 2010, I was sketching things out. I come across Pinterest, I think it might have been, and you look for coffee tables and you look for some other bits and pieces, and you see some of the styles that you like in there. So if there's anybody who's interested in designing, and those sorts of places are great creative resources to help you. And I guess that's where it's evolved from there, building a coffee table out of steel. Look, steel, the glue dries real fast. It's straight. It's very consistent. Wood has a beauty about it, and it has a feel and a smell, and it's something that's very natural and totally gorgeous, and it fills the soul. When the two combine, you have something with such great strength and the beauty as well, and that's what attracts me to it. Don't see myself changing away too much from it. I don't see myself as being a true cabinet maker with the dovetails and things like that. So I guess I'll probably continue with what I'm doing, just different objects.
I encounter a lot of people that are coming into woodworking later in their working careers, and a lot of them would say the same thing to me, and that is that, I've been working with metal for 30, 40 years, but you can stick two bits of metal together just easier. It's easier to me. But would you say that when you're working with metal and wood, that you find yourself favouring one side or the other more, finding that metal is actually easier to work, but wood takes more of the kind of, you slow it down a bit, because you can't just fill a weld with a glue joint with extra weld in wood where you can with metal. Do you find that kind of relationship, or is it just grumpy old men that I'm dealing with?
No, there's some truth to that. But I think steel, once you can weld, the next you've got to learn to cut material and prepare the material for joining. And then there's an engineering side, so it's not going to bend and twist and shrink and in those sorts of aspects. Once you've got those sorts of things in your head, the steel work's pretty straightforward, pretty quick. The woodwork takes a lot more care. You've got to take into account the movement of the wood and the different species and twist and bow, because it's a tree. It's got all different characteristics that intertwine with other bits of wood. So I find that the woodwork I have to concentrate and plan much more carefully. And so whatever I'm into, like if I'm doing the steel work, I get into that and I'm all 100% just that steel work. I'm not even thinking about the wood. When I'm thinking about everything, that's where I'm at the sketch pad. When I get to the woodwork, I'm not even thinking about the steel work. I just want to get into the wood, so I get engrossed in what I'm doing at the time.
It'd probably be a good time to talk about your latest project then. Scott, you and I have discussed this slightly over the last couple of weeks. Do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown on that? Because I think that's a really exciting project, but just also how the whole thing came to be and where it's going. It's quite impressive.
Okay, right. So my latest project was a desk for an international customer in San Francisco. Max, he contacted me probably last October, and just through watching my YouTube channel, and asked if I would be interested in making a desk for him. I said, yeah, of course. But I tried to talk him out of it because, quite frankly, I get a lot of requests for jobs overseas, and the freight is ridiculous. It really is. And I phoned up some freight companies just for a rough estimate, and I got back to Max, and he said, yeah, that's no problems, let's go ahead. So we moved into the next stage of the job, and where I could actually quote the thing out. And I thought, this is a very, very big price for the amount of work that's involved. I thought he'd can it at that stage, and he goes, no, that's okay. Move on to the next stage. So it took me by surprise. I was never expecting this job. So it was a desk. He liked the industrial style, so I had to incorporate the wood and the steel work, which I've been doing in an industrial sort of fashion. And I gave him some concept sketches, and we basically took it from there. The concept sketches, Max wanted to have that in a computer design CAD version, which I can't do. I sort of steer away from that. I don't have the patience to do that at this stage. So he does, and he whipped it up on the Fusion 360, and we agreed on the concept, and we went from there, and we built this thing. It, like I said, last October, and I've only just finished it, and because it was a very demanding job. Max, he had very particular ideas, and we had a few experimental ideas as well. And it's very hard over the distance of the tyranny of distance, and also time delays. And so we ended up getting the job done, but it was a mighty big, complex, time-consuming job. I'm glad it's done, but I'm also glad that I took it on now. I was probably cursing a little bit at the time, but I'm so glad I took it on. Max was a great customer. He was very patient, and it ended up being something that will, I think, last for many years. And he hasn't got it yet, so he might be sending me a rocket. I don't know, but it's on its way there now.
You wanted at 1 to 10 scale.
Talking about scale then, Scott, going back to the fact that he provided the drawing. Was he expecting it then to be millimeter perfect, or what was the tolerances of it, considering he was saying this is what I want?
Definitely, there was a high degree of expectation on the job because it had to fit within a very limited space within his apartment in San Francisco. I mean, those places they live in, they're like shoeboxes, I guess, but very very small, and it had constraints. He had particular things like it had to have adjustable height for the top shelf. It had to be adjustable because he may go to a bigger monitor in years to come. He had to have a spot for his subwoofer, and also he wanted a hatch in the centre of the desk, and that meant a rather complex design, chopping a big hole in the centre of the desk where he can access cables and things like that. And I spent hours trying to try and work that out. And he wanted it cast out of bronze. And in the end, yeah. Well, not cast, machined. I initially said we could probably machine that, but the machining time for that was on my machine was something like 30 hours. The risk was just too great, and so then we talked about casting the hatch, and we.
Would the machining be done on your CNC? Is that your CNC router? Is that right?
So I would machine it out in the bronze and or the brass and go from there, but. It took 3 hours to carve it in wood. Everything has to be slowed down when you're carving the metal, so it was just such a high risk, and I ended up saying I can't do that. It hurts me to say it, but it was too great a risk, and we took some sense and said let's hold off on that idea. And so.
And did he provide the drawings in American or metric?
There's only one sensible system there, I think. No, we could work in both. If that's where Google's good. You can type in the conversions and it works pretty well. It's a relief to have that job sent. I can say that it's very much. So what am I doing now? I can sit back and have a bit of smell the roses, so to speak.
Now, just for anyone who's interested, that video is available now on YouTube. It's a really long one as well, Scott. You put a lot of time into that one. So if anyone's interested in the table that we're talking about, they can check it out there. How long did that take you to edit that?
It took probably 3 days. This is something that when you're starting at a YouTube channel, your effort is probably quite minimal, I guess. Well, I'm speaking from my own experience. I didn't put a lot of time into it, but these days I put days into my editing. It's a big part of setting up the video. I take multiple shots, different angles. I take many hours of video footage, and I only use it like a fraction of that, but I've got it there if I need it. And I spend an age editing the videos, so oh well, that's what it is. That's what it takes.
Well, that's the thing, and if you can get a good number of people to watch for that length, and looking at the comments that I read through, it looks like a large majority of the people watching that video sat through all 20 odd minutes that it was, then you're on to a winner. You're obviously doing something right.
Yeah, thank you. It is good that people sit through the whole thing, and that Google Analytics is something that can show that sort of those statistics. It's hit and miss sometimes. There's some things that I've posted that I think will do well that just flop. And there's other things that I don't, the opposite of that, and it does very well. But by and large, people are very generous with their comments. You get some people that are a little bit negative towards things, but by and large, it's a great community.
Yeah. I think for the most part they are, and what's been really great for you in your particular case is you've found that community. And that's half the battle on YouTube, is finding that community. We've talked about this on the show before, where YouTube, I think YouTube still sees me as a DIY type of guy. Like, that's the videos that I'm putting out. So week in and week out, I'm putting out these woodworking videos, and YouTube's saying, "What are you doing? Why are you giving us these videos? You're into DIY." So until I find that audience, it's always this uphill battle. Whereas someone like yourself, you've had this rocketing success, it's because they've pinpointed you with that correct audience, and now it's just not smooth sailing, but you're on the right track.
I think so, and I think I said early on I just want to do a certain type of video, and I've sort of stuck to that. and I try and be true to that. I don't try and force it, and so far it seems to be working. I can't say I'll be doing this forever, but I'm enjoying it at the moment, and it's bringing opportunities my way, and it's keeping me interested, and that's an important thing.
Seeing as you're raking in all the big bucks now off YouTube, are you going to double the size of your workshop?
I want to try and just stay here for a bit. To double the size
Right.
of the workshop, I either put an extension out the front or out the back, or go rent someplace. I want to try and keep it simple and keep creating at home. Pretty much what I'm doing now, but just keep varying the projects in terms of, I want to do a chair next. Right now I'm fitting out a camper van, so I am filming it. Whether I post it or not, I don't know. And that's something I really want to get into is the van life. But the next videos I'm going to be doing is probably going to be an industrial style chair using wood and steel again, and doing a bit of selling. So I'm hoping I can explore those things.
Well, that's probably a good segue then to talk about what we're all working on at the moment. So, an industrial chair, Scott. Any other details, or do you want to just leave it at that and make sure everyone comes back to see it?
It'll be a wooden chair, but it'll be curvy. I struggle with straight lines sometimes, unless it's using steel. So curvy allows me to get away with stuff. So yeah, like that curve was always meant to be there, even if it's just twisted or warped, you know. So whereas steel work, when it's curvy, it's warped and it's had too much heat or whatever. So the chair, and it'll just be, sometimes I don't overthink it. I let things flow and evolve. I'll do a rough sketch, and I'll have in mind what I want, and it'll just tend to develop as I go. And that's the way I like to do it.
Jordan, how about you? What are you on at the moment?
This is actually the first day I've been back at my shop since the last episode, so I am very, very far behind. So yeah, I'm not working on anything in particular, but I am kind of brainstorming. One of which is a machine, which I don't know if I'm actually going to make or not. And the other is just new designs, but I haven't actually been working on anything related to my business, as I've been helping out another business with a big trade show. So nothing to report from me.
Joey, how about you?
Man, this week has been pretty tough. If anyone's been following along on my Instagram, you would have seen a large kind of plywood reception desk for a local council building, and that was pretty major. It's a pretty big job, and it had to be done by tomorrow actually. So I got it done a day early, so that was good. But yeah, some issues with the job financially with the clients, so that probably not a good spot to get into that at this point, but needless to say, it was a bit tense whether I was actually going to start packing it all back up and put it in the van and bring it back to the workshop. So that ended up out good so far. They still owe me some money, so we'll see next week if I get all of my money.
So to add to that, to everyone listening to this episode, we're going to be talking about that in next episode because I am dying to hear the story. So we will be talking about this in the next one because this sounds like a good old Joey story. Because I remember from last season, you had all the interesting quote unquote clients. Yeah. So super keen to hear what happened here.
I think part of the reason I get these quote unquote interesting clients is because at the moment, I can see on my year planner, and I got 9 jobs out, or actually 10 jobs out last month, which is a complete record for me. I usually average like 5 if I'm really going well, and we just smashed jobs out last month. And so I think just the volume of work I'm putting through, if you just do the numbers, at some point, every now and then, you're going to have a sticky client. So,
yeah, looking at those pictures there, that looks stunning.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really interesting. I really wanted to use this concrete veneered panel, and I've been looking for a job for it for a long time, and I convinced these guys that they should use it, and it looks really awesome. It's a really cool way to kind of have as a facade for a reception desk type cabinet. So I'm really happy with how that worked out.
Did you video it?
Nope. That's a whole other conversation for me at the moment. And I kind of wanted to bring it up with you, Scott, but we don't have enough time really to get into the crux of it. But like at the moment, you're probably finding okay because you're not working, and you've obviously got enough income that I guess from your wife, and you're bringing in some of the money as well, so that's really good. And for me, I can't at this point devote the time needed mainly to edit and get the videos out. Like you're saying, 3 days or 2 days, I could probably spend that if I really wanted to on a video. And I'm producing generally 20 to 30 minute videos, and I just can't give myself that time to put a video out. I've got a bunch of it. I think I've still got 2 videos filmed. I just can't get them edited. And I'm looking for someone to do it. I can't find anyone who wants to edit my videos. I'm actually wanting to find a cameraman who can just come in, I'll pay them, just film stuff, edit it, and then I can do a final edit. I'm willing to pay someone at this point, but it's just finding someone who can do it that's local.
Well, if you're willing to pay for my flights every week, I'll come do it for you, mate.
Yeah, it might be cheap enough.
Yeah. That's I know the workload that involves, and you've got other priorities, so it's got to make sense. It has to make sense for you to do it. So you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube does provide an income. One, you can never guarantee how much that's going to be. So it's like, do I really want to spend 2-3 days on a project that might flop and I might get $57 for the 20 days that it's earning money? Is it worth my time for that? Or I might have some awesome video like my outdoor sofa when I got gazillions of views in a month and I made $3,000 in 1 month. And that was great. If that happened every month, I'd be happy. But that's not something that's going to happen all the time. So, so you've got to bet on something, for me at least. I'm the only income source for my family, and so I'm betting on the money. I know exactly how much jobs coming in, and I know what I should earn, and that's a lot of a safer bet.
So what have you been working on, Rob?
So I've been working on and this is not woodworking related at all, putting in a rainwater tank into my backyard. So the Townsville Council recently issued an announcement to say that they were giving out rebates for water saving measures. So depending on which one you get, like drip irrigation, rainwater tanks, those sort of things, they'll give you a certain amount of money back. And I've been looking at getting a rainwater tank for ages. This was sort of the what got me over the line with it. So the last weekend I was getting it fitted, and then this week I've just been painting deck boards to cover it all off. So really that's been about it. It's been shoveling trenches for stormwater pipes and stuff. So there's been very little in the shop.
A couple of months. You just had the entire town flood not that long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, and my workshop was rinsed because I didn't have anywhere for the water to go, which is partly what this rainwater tank is going to be for. It's because it rains so hard, so fast here, that 1,000 liters is just like a buffer. So it'll fill that up, and then hopefully then over the next couple of days I can release it out into the yard slowly, and then try and use it like that. So that's, I don't need gumboots to be in my workshop.
Ideal.
Excuses.
All right. So Scott, before we end off the show, I just want to ask one question, and maybe this is a bit of a geek out moment, but you've met Jimmy DiResta, and we talked about him a little bit in the beginning of the show. What's he like? Because he's sort of like the godfather of the scene. What's he like as a person?
Very generous and a very genuine person. He's got incredible fame. I liken it to meeting Elvis Presley before I met him. In terms of he had that sort of aura when you watch him and all that sort of stuff. But through my channel, a guy that watched my channel, Derek Forestier, he's in Boston. He's a good friend of Jimmy's, and I really didn't know that. But when I said I was going to the United States, he said, "You'll have to catch up with Jimmy." And he basically made that arrangement for me. He gave me Jimmy's email address, and he insisted that I call him. He watches my channel, and that blew me away. So, and I ended up sending Jimmy an email. I said, Sure, why don't you drop on in and maybe stay the night? He's in upstate New York, which is, he was in the city, but he moved upstate New York a couple of hours out of town. And he invited me to he's never met me before and never had a conversation, but he invited me to stay over on his farm, my wife and I. So, look, and we did drive out there with Tim Sway. I met Tim Sway, another fantastic guy. Very genuine. This is the thing about us makers, hey? We're good guys and girls. And so we went out and met Jimmy. He was flying a drone around his maker church that he's got. He's building this great big building out the back of his yard.
Yeah.
And then he put his drone down in the mud because it was raining, and he spent the whole morning with me and took me to his shop and showed me around, and we had good chats. Showed me his chickens, showed me his, all the sheds, and he's got multiple sheds and all that sort of stuff, and through the house. And so, that's extreme. That's a sign of a person who's very generous. And there was no questions that were too hard. Nothing was off limits. Just enjoy yourself, and a genuine thanks for coming in to see me. That's what I got from him.
Awesome.
So, great guy.
Awesome.
Great guy. Very talented as well.
He strikes me as one of those people that will go a mile just to kind of make sure someone is, feeling comfortable or like they're getting value or whatever. So
very approachable, and you're exactly right. Yeah. He is very genuine. Yeah, very fortunate to have met those guys over there. I've met a couple of other makers in the States. I think the maker movement over there is quite big. Doug Boyd from Artfully Rogue. He's in Phoenix, Arizona, but I met him at New York because he was in New York City at the time. Dave Garnier, he's from Elm City Vintage. He's in the New Haven area. And these guys were all the same. They were just so glad to have the time to meet you, and we had a few drinks. Jimmy doesn't drink. We just had, a cup of tea or whatever. But wonderful camaraderie, great friendships, and these are lasting friendships from across the world. And that's a good thing about this YouTube community. And you guys are doing exactly the same. You're building your communities. And the world needs that positivity and those handshakes across this big planet, across these seas. So I think it's a fantastic thing, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
Well, that was very well said. I kind of don't think I can add anything else to that. That was awesome.
All right. Thanks again, Scott, for being on the show. It was great to hear your story and really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Thank you for inviting me on the show, guys. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
To everyone listening, I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, please go ahead and give it a rating on iTunes. That really helps us out. The Shop Stall podcast is available on iTunes and most other podcast apps, as well as YouTube. Joey and Jordan, a pleasure as always. My name is Robin Lewis. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Gotcha.